Welcome to the RePsychled podcast, where we discuss everyday issues from a mental health perspective. We are your hosts, Dr. Rashonda Strickland,
Dr. LaFanya Jones-Hines,
and Dr. Nichelle Wall. Now, don't get it twisted. We're not going to be your stereotypical therapist.
What we will be is informative, down to earth, a little spicy, and vulnerable.
All right, interns, turn up your volume, grab your pen and paper. It's supervision time. As a reminder, this podcast is not meant to take the place of a relationship with a licensed mental health professional.
Welcome back to session 59, Pavlov's dogs. Now, before we get into it, we want to make sure that we give a huge shout out to our new countries that have started listening to us. And our top new one, as far as listeners go, is Brazil.
Hey, come on through Brazil. Yes.
I can't speak no Portuguese.
I know. I was like,
what's the word?
I know in my head. I was like, I know no Portuguese.
I've been there though. Shout out to Iguaçu.
There we go.
Okay.
Then we have South Africa.
Mm-hmm. Come on.
Which we always, get a little African people in there.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. And then our final person is South Korea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for listening and tuning in. We appreciate your support.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, interns. Y'all ready? All right. So y'all know I like to start you off with a different little question. So I have a question for you ladies.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one too.
Jesus.
Dr. Wall is going to love this question.
I'm not dealing with you today.
What are your top 3 turn-ons?
Are we keeping it PG? Or we?
I mean, Dr. Jones-Hines already gave us an explicit session. So
I was just getting ready to say, we already done started, non-PG.
Okay, they've already been warned. Okay.
Yes.
That this season is going to be a little bit different. Gotcha.
Yes.
Top 3.
Well, I'll give y'all one of my first ones.
Okay.
Because Mr. Hines.
Oh, Lord.
Chocolate drop.
And see, that's my turn on right there. Because he just so chocolate and sexy. And that beard. Oh, come on, grown man, bone structure.
He do have a nice full beard.
He
it's
does.
not like spotty.
Yes.
He ain't got no Beijing on it.
So yes, that's
one
a
of
turn
yours.
on.
Okay.
I definitely like strong hands or like a strong body, because I'm not a small girl. So I want, somebody that has the ability to, really be strong.
Hilarious.
Trying to keep it real PG.
I mean, because you never know.
Something might pop out.
Yeah, you never know what's going out in the ether.
Okay.
But I definitely like strong hands, strong back, strong, arms, that kind of thing. I'm not a huge abs person, but I definitely like, to be able to see that you can, handle your weight.
Yeah, I got you.
You like how I did that?
Yes,
huh?
I do. I would say one of mine would be that swag aura. It's just something about it. Like you can't really even put into words, but when you see it, it's just like, Because for me, I don't need a man who come into the room and tell me he a man. I just need you to be him.
I like
and that
that
swag energy. Like, and I don't mean like flashy or anything, because that would tear my nerves up. But,
Yeah.
that je ne sais quoi.
Absolutely. I'm also a sucker for teeth. And that is definitely coming from a personal place. For the interns that don't know me, like I have a pretty large gap in the front of my top teeth, and that's always been something that I've been super insecure about. So I've always been a sucker for like white, straight, closed front teeth, like specifically. Like they need to be.
Yeah, and your mama in the industry.
Yes, and my mama's in the dental industry.
Yeah.
And both of my parents have great teeth. So that's definitely something that I'm like, I immediately look for that. And if them dentals is messed up, like I don't care how you look, it's just like my brain is like, no.
And so I would have to say my next one would be hygiene, period. Like I love a man that look good, smell good. He looks like he grooms himself. You know, that is a definite turn on for me.
I would say I tend to date a more metrosexual man. I know every man that I done dated is like, I'm not metrosexual, but they are.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
No,
it's
that
just,
It don't mean what you think it means.
no,
Right.
it don't. I like a well-kept guy. I am straight up slouchy sweatpants enough for everybody. So I don't need my man to also be like that. Even though, you know, I can dress up when I need to dress up, but I like that well kept. Don't come in here with no 3-piece suit and a timepiece, because
That's too much.
I'm pregnant.
Oh no,
I was just
right.
say that's just right for me.
That's just
I love
right.
it. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha. That's just right. Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So what's your third one?
My third one, I like a manly man, like someone who's handy around the house. They can, like, if we have to call a plumber, that's the last resort. Like, he gonna get out there and mess it up first, before, you know, and hopefully fix it,
Yeah.
you know, and then we won't have to call a plumber.
You need an Overton.
Yeah, there we go. I like it. I like manly men.
And then I would say my third one would be being able to have like philosophical, you know,
That's what I was about to say.
really like philosophical conversation. Somebody that's not, you know, afraid to dive into alternative ideas, or, you know, just alternative things in general. So I think that that's also something that is also a turn on.
So since she took mine, I got to come up with another one.
Sorry.
I will say the ability to be vulnerable.
Ooh.
And I say that because I'm an empath. I'm also a therapist, so I don't want to do that type of work with my significant other. But when a man comes to you and they are just ready to be open, you know, they done already did their work. It's just something so sexy about them. I'm like, okay, I need to get my life more together.
Mow together.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's good. I mean, but I think I would agree with everything that y'all said as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe with the exclusion of the metro part, but for me,
Yes, I know.
I'm more of a like, I like a you know, a stereotypical like dude.
Yes.
You know.
Well, you know, I date thugs that dress up.
Yes. But
And I can definitely agree with the intelligence part and the emotional intelligence part, because I
for
definitely
sure.
would. That is
Need
very
that.
attractive,
yes, absolutely.
because you want to be able to have a conversation. You just can't be good in bed and not be able to have a conversation.
Oh, and the hygiene part that you said, because, you know, we had a whole cackle about that earlier. Oof.
Yes.
Okay.
The hygiene.
So, if you can't tell yet, interns, we are going to be talking about relationships.
Yay, y'all's favorite topic.
Yes. So, I have another question.
Okay.
Have you ever realized how you are a different person once you get out of a relationship?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Occasionally.
Okay.
That's a good question. Because when I think about relationship, I'm trying to figure out how I'm defining that for myself. Because if we're talking long-term relationships, I've only had 2 long-term relationships, but I've dated a bunch of people. So the people, and some of those would be 6 months, you know, a year. Well, not even a year, 8 months, you know, stuff like that. So
That's a good point. So as we're talking about this, when we say relationships, how long do y'all want?
I would say like at least 6 months, because
Okay.
you know how we were talking about in the other session, you know, the representative stuff. You know, you need to start doing some life with the person.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So 6 months and longer. For me, the shorter term ones did not have as much of an impact on me. if I'm being honest, I wasn't really invested in those relationships like that. Because it was just dating for the purpose of dating, or it was just a casual, kind of hookup kind of relationships. There wasn't really any type of desire to go beyond that.
Player from the Himalayas.
I mean, yeah, in my day, don't let this long-term marriage fool you now. Now, my first long-term relationship, yes, and I've said this before in previous sessions, that relationship drastically changed who I was. I can't even imagine the woman I would be today had I not been involved in that relationship, even as traumatic and abusive as it was. There's a level in my mind that I even almost cringe saying this, that appreciates going through that experience. I hate having it, but I don't know who I would have been without it. So the immediate effects, I think, were very emotionally damaging and, changed my viewpoint on men in the immediate, short term. But I think there was some benefit in the long run. And then I'm still in my current one, so I ain't got out of that one. So I don't really have no comment on that.
So interns, if you can't guess, we want you to start thinking about who the person you were molded into while you were in a relationship, and how you presented yourself after you got out of the relationship, like how it affected you after you were out of the relationship.
I was cutthroat.
I think
I stopped dating a dude after my first relationship because I didn't like that he wore plastic watches. Like petty. Like I just did.
I mean, it was done.
I was done.
Didn't have nothing left to give.
I did, and I was like, oh, I almost said a word. This black person.
This ninja.
And that's what I was thinking. But of course, at the time, I was like 22, 23, something like that. And I'm like, oh, no, you wearing a Swatch watch? Oh, no,
Really?
no, sir. No.
Yeah, you go into super protective mode.
Yeah, I mean, it was just so much. There were so many people that I dated, and it was just these small little reasons like, oh, I don't like, you seem like you thought you were going to yell at me. So yeah, I'm just going to ghost you. I mean, even though we didn't have that term back then, but that's basically what it was. Just very zero tolerance for a long time after that.
Yeah.
I think something that I recognize is that typically in a healthy relationship, you're not being molded and nobody is molding you. But when you get into those relationships that are not as healthy, people are kind of forcing you into a situation that you don't want to be in, but because you want this person, you're like, okay, I'll concede, or okay, I will let that belief go or that value go. And then till one day you just look up and you're a totally different person. You don't recognize yourself. You might not even recognize the person that you're with. But ironically, I think people do that because they think that's what they want on either side. But in reality, they be wanting something totally different. They're just going with the societal norms.
It's interesting you say that, because I have clients all the time in relationships and they've lost themselves. And, we have to work on them finding who they are, which, y'all know I have that questionnaire in my office. Who am I?
Yeah.
Like, we have to just get back to the basics, because first of all, depending on how long you've been in this relationship, there has been changes that you've made throughout your life. And so on top of those changes, anyway, those changes were molded into this. If it's an unhealthy relationship, those changes were molded into the relationship that you have. And vice versa with your partner. So now you have to figure out, okay, so I always use the example of the runaway bride. She didn't even know what kind of eggs she liked.
And she went through all them eggs to try to figure it out, and they don't even really like them.
Exactly. And so I always give that example to my clients of like, you got to figure out what kind of eggs you like.
Yeah.
Back to the basics.
Yeah. What do y'all think about the guy or the girl who is doing the molding?
So I definitely think that it depends on kind of this person's personality structure, because some people can do it from a place of wanting to control the other person and kind of have them, you know, in a possessive kind of ways, like you're mine. So you can try to mold your partner in that way so that they don't see a way out of the situation.
Stockholm.
Yes. And then, you know, they're just stuck there.
Yeah.
But if we're not going that deep in on it, I would say it's because you want something similar to what you just said. Like, you want a partner that's going to fit with you. So you try to make these small suggestions on how this person can improve this thing or that thing. But over time, that creates, like you were saying, a different person.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I also think it's because of another part of what you were saying, Dr. Wild, not knowing what you want. And thinking, because how many times have you all dated someone that you thought you wanted, and it was like, yeah, I probably should have let you keep walking.
Many.
Oh yeah, have had people reach out years, like years later, and it's like, oh, you still exactly the same as you were back then.
Or it was your high school crush, and they reached out. It was like, oh my God, and then you been like,
You see my face?
I know.
Yes.
I wish you would. I
I
know
my
you
high
know,
school
but
crush on Facebook, and I was like,
dodged a bullet.
Yes.
Dodged a bullet.
okay,
Got some other ones, but I dodged that one.
Yeah.
okay, all right.
I think it's just so interesting when you are looking at the molder in a relationship and how they have these expectations for whoever they are with. And it's like, do you not realize that that is not the person that you should be with if you have to do all this molding? Just let them go. But also, there's this part of me that's like doing the internal work, and I'm like, but do you match up with what you want? Because a lot of times people be wanting, you know, this prim and we'll just use, because we date men here, using this prim and proper, you know, motif that men want, a lady in the streets and a freak in the sheets and stuff like that. But sir, you don't know what a labia is. Sir, you don't know how to tie a bow tie. Like, there, you want all these things, but you don't have nothing that you bring in. You really want the status of this imaginary relationship in your head.
Yeah.
And like I said, this is just because we date men. Flip side for women as well. Having somebody that caters to your every whim, takes you on these fanciful dates and things like that. And but then you don't want to relinquish control.
Right.
Where they do that at?
I remember doing a speaking engagement one day on, I think it was parenting, some type of parenting thing. And, one of the examples that I gave, whatever I was talking about, one of the examples I gave was men want women that know how to cook. But do you know how to fix on anything? Do you know how to fix a car? You know how to fix a pipe? You know how to turn on the air condition? Like, and so I was telling telling the fathers, I was like, y'all raising them to want these type of men, but teach them how to fix them. Teach them how to wash a car.
Yeah,
that's
I agree.
a whole other topic right there. Because I mean, I need you to treat these kids the same, because these are skills.
Yeah,
and skills are not gender normative.
They're not. We make them, but they're not.
Yes.
But I agree with both of you ladies. You know, you do have to take stock. And this is something we kind of say, you know, periodically and frequently. You know, you have to always be self-assessing on what are your motives behind what you're doing. So if you are, you know, making these suggestions or, you know, changing people's behavior, like, how is this serving me? And is this serving me in a selfish kind of way? Is this serving me for the greater good of the relationship? You know, because there's you, that person or persons, and the relationship. So, you know, how is this dynamic that we've got going on helpful?
And then the other thing that we typically talk to our clients about is, you know, when you're in a relationship and you're going against the things that you believe, your values, your morals, and all of those things, you're molded into something else. That's when depression and anxiety kicks in, because you're going against what you believe.
You feel like you have to do something. It's a level of desperation. I'm not calling nobody desperate, but it's a level of desperation, like this last ditch effort.
Yeah.
I have to do this so that I can have him. I have to do this so that I can maintain this relationship, when you could easily just let go and find something that fits better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then my next question, have you ever, well, we didn't answer the question. The first question, Dr. Strickland did.
We did.
Did we?
Mhm.
Okay. So my next question is, when you leave this relationship, do you feel like a weight has been lifted off?
Girl, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm free.
Yes.
Mhm.
It's this song that we sing at my one of the churches that I grew up in. It says, "I'm free, free, free. The Lord has set me free. I have found the Lamb of Calvary." And every time that's what pops up in my head, I'm like, something is wrong with me. I can't have no soundtrack every time something pop up.
But that's,
idea.
yeah, that sound good though. You free, free, free. I like free, free, free.
It's my favorite number.
Okay.
But of course, if you have realized that you are no longer even close to the person that you used to be, especially if you had healthy attributes back then, once you are out of that headspace, I think it sometimes will take a while for that freedom to really set in. I think initially it's kind of like a relief and like, oh my goodness, like shock, like, oh, it really is over.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm out of this. But then I think, from there, as you continue on not being involved in that relationship, then that idea of freedom and that lack of pressure and expectation and conformity,
Yes.
that starts to get lower and lower and lower, and the freedom part gets higher and higher. So then you are even more able to at that point start looking at, okay, so what went wrong with me?
Yeah.
Not what went wrong with them.
Yeah.
What went wrong with me? What areas did I not set boundaries for myself? Because something I've been talking with a lot of my clients about is, in mental health, we talk a lot about setting boundaries with other people.
Set them boundaries for yourself.
Yeah, but you got to also set boundaries for you.
Yeah.
So, where did I compromise my boundaries with myself, let alone regardless of whatever I did with the other person? Or, what did I twist in my own head, to make it seem lovable, make it seem, appreciative or whatnot. We have a good way of convincing ourselves of things.
Yeah. I think that's a great point, because we have to become our own advocacy center. We advocate for ourselves first and foremost. And if you find yourself in a relationship like this and you're always advocating for what the other person wants, there are some boundaries that you are crossing over. You have crossed over your own boundaries and you are now into theirs. And that's not healthy.
And if you lose your boundaries while you're in this relationship, that's not healthy, because you have to have boundaries with everybody. It doesn't matter who it is. You have to have boundaries with everybody, and including yourself, because when you're in these types of relationships, you have to go through it's a whole process. I know we're kind of starting in the, I guess, middle, maybe end, but it's a process of you going back and understanding like where you started twisting the story. And then you have to forgive yourself for staying in the relationship and allowing the relationship to change or mold you into
forgiveness.
Ooh, that's a big one.
Yes, that's a big one, and is a difficult one. Self-forgiveness and forgiveness of others are two things that we have the most difficult time with. One, because nobody really understands forgiveness.
That's
a whole different
topic.
powerful.
That's a different session. We're not about to dive into that too deep.
Yes.
But I agree with you. The thing that I hear a lot is, how could I have been so stupid? I was weak. You hear a lot of that kind of real self-deprecating kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, I can't tell you how many clients, male and female, I've told it's not stupid to want to be loved by the person that you're with, even if they're treating you bad. That is not a stupid feeling or thought or want.
Because that's our nature, to want to be loved, to want to be with, have a companion.
Yeah.
And the opposite of using wisdom is not stupidity.
That is true.
We deal in a lot of opposites, and we just automatically go to what is on the other end of the spectrum, and we put ourselves down more, which perpetuates the cycle and will keep you going back to that person or going back to something that is similar. You know, we really have to take a moment and be like, okay, you know, let me analyze this situation. Like, I know for me personally, when I get out of a relationship, I don't date for a whole year. Now, I'm getting older, I'm gonna have to stop doing that, but that's not the point. But when I was younger and I was actively dating, I would not allow myself to get into another relationship for a whole year. Like, it was literally marked on the calendar, and I would be doing self-work. I'm not just sitting there, you know, shooting the breeze. No, I'm like, okay, what do I need to heal from? What do I need to grieve? What do I need to do better within myself? What attracted me to this person? So if it was a toxic situation, I can stop attracting that. Because for me, I dated emotionally unavailable men because that was what I saw in my dad. Versus, you know, my grandfather, he was there. He was present for me. That was my father figure. But when you are still desiring to be chosen by the man who is your biological parent, and you're not getting that, you start forming those type of romantic relationships. And ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah, see, I think for me, I dated men who I committed to who wasn't ready to be committed to.
Because you grew up traditional. We all been raised to be good housewives and cooking and cleaning, and that's that Southern lifestyle. Yeah, but everybody ain't no leader. And we didn't. That's the part we didn't get taught, was they got to be a leader.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that, I think for me, there were a few that was difficult for me to leave, but once I made up my mind, I was gone. I'm not taking you back. We're done.
Like, that power feels so good once you finally, you know, take it back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Kind of similar, same thing. Like once I definitely, my first real relationship, I took him back a bunch of times. But that last time was like, you know what? I don't care what happens from here. I don't care what you do. I'm done. And, you know, I will just take whatever consequence comes with being done with this relationship. And thank God it turned out to be okay. But yeah, like once you have become solid and, you know, reserved in, this is not for me, you know, I cannot place this other person's wants, needs, and whatever above myself anymore, because I have, you know, allowed them to get in my head and change my whole perspective. I mean, basically gaslight me through a whole relationship, essentially. You know, and once you kind of get back to reality, like, hold on, I don't recognize nothing that's going on around me. That's the freeing feeling. You know, I think that's the first part of that whole redemption with self.
The awareness.
Yeah. And that awareness, whew, man, that's so powerful. Like that can put you on a high that can't nothing else do.
Oh yeah.
Because now, like we were saying earlier, it makes you feel free. You feel light. Like for me, you said you would go a year. I would go 4. Just because most of the time I was in school, because I mean, I had been in school all my life. So I always had something else I needed to be focused on anyway, instead of some relationship that wasn't healthy for me. And so whenever the relationship would end, I would just dive into what I needed to be into anyway.
I agree. I think the flip side of that is also, while you have that awareness and that freedom and all that greatness that comes with that, the other half of that coin is anger, bitterness, resentment,
impulsivity.
Yeah.
You know,
I could definitely say I held on to some bitterness and maybe not resentment, but bitterness, because I became no nonsense for real. Like, you could not call me that day. We're done. I'm not talking to you. You ain't got to call me no more.
Cut off game quick.
quick.
Zero tolerance.
Like every letter of that word. Quick.
Breathing too loud. I can't date you.
Exactly. Yeah, I was completely no nonsense.
Oh, yeah. I was like that probably for about 5 years. 4 or 5 years. And then it was like, okay, hold on. Because you think you want to get in a relationship. That's not going to work no more.
Yeah.
But it was a battle.
Yeah.
It's a huge undertaking.
It was a huge undertaking, when my husband and I first got together. Them first few years was real hard, because you have lived a certain lifestyle for a while. You have a certain mindset. I'm also a very driven person, so learning to now, like, oh no, you said you're going to be with this person, so you have to take their wants and their desires into consideration. Not even them trying to push them on you. Right. Like you just
have to respect the fact that they have them.
Yeah. Right. That you chose to be with this person. So you also have to choose to incorporate them into your life. Yeah. They're not going to just be there just to be there.
See, I think I held on to mine until I met my husband, and I almost didn't let him down for it. It was for my bestie.
It was for my mama.
Because I'm telling you, like, I almost didn't let him down from him. Like, and I know I said this on previous. Neither of us was in a headspace to date anyway. But I guess we just kept.
Well, y'all were in a headspace. It's just y'all was hiding behind them boundaries real tough. Because if you wouldn't have been ready, it wouldn't have worked.
Well, in the beginning, like, we didn't even talk a lot. Like, he, what he does for a living. So he would text me maybe once a week. And I was fine with that because I wasn't ready to go full blown. And I'm assuming he wasn't either. So
ease into it.
Yeah, we eased into it. And and when he was in town, he would take me out. We would go our separate ways, and that was it. So it wasn't like a traditional start off to dating, that's why I say we were in different. I think we were trying to figure out if this is really what because we knew if we got into it, this was getting ready, because he had been married before, so he's used to being a husband. So I knew I had to be ready for what he was going to give me.
Yeah. And he had to be ready to be dating somebody that has all the stuff that you have going on. Like, when you dating grown people, this not for play. We not talking about, okay, what time you get out of football practice. No, we have like life going on.
Right.
So I think you have to be cognizant of that and realize, what you're getting yourself into, and not just want a significant other. And
you're right though. We did both have good boundaries that we were trying to hide behind too. Because I can admit, my husband does have some good boundaries, and he is emotionally intelligent. Now, I do sometimes have to pull out the emotion, but he will tell if he hear the right one. Yep, that's it.
See, mine was the complete opposite. He was full force from the second that I met him.
I mean, that is him.
That is him. Yes. I mean, anybody that knows my husband and knows him well knows that he is like a moth to a flame when it comes to me.
Burning by the fire.
Yes. So he was full force. Like, it was like within a month, he was like, look, here's a promise ring. And I was like, what? MFer? I don't think so. Like, I was completely like, Yeah. I was definitely not I was in I think I want to be in a relationship headspace, but I was not in a like, yes, I'm definitely there. So it took some time for me to kind of catch up to where he was. And then, again, from then, now it's the bumps and bruises of, okay, now I've caught up in mindset, but I'm not with you in behavior, because now those two things have to align for me.
Yeah. I think that's what's important when you have a healthy relationship after one that has been toxic or unhealthy, is that you have to have the ability to pay attention. Like, you can't just be forcing your significant other to go at your pace. Y'all have to go at the same pace together. Like, if you don't do that, you're going to cause more damage in the area that the damage was already at.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. That's real true. Yeah. I think lucky for me, my husband is very mild mannered and just kind of smooth. So he was real chill. So that was,
he still is.
Yeah, he still is. But that I think that helped me and him to go at a slower pace that allowed us to coast first.
So funny. We have such different spouses.
But when they get together,
because
they will talk. Like
Derek is like, I mean, I love it. I love that he's very outgoing and he's not afraid to like meet people, talk to people, interact with people. You know, I do appreciate that he is the extrovert, even though he's not an extrovert. He is the extrovert of us too, you know, so it can definitely be much easier to incorporate into a group setting. Yeah. Cause I'll hang back and just observe with the quickness.
And that's the thing with my husband and my bestie being the same sign. It's like y'all are just, he'll hang back too. He'll just look. He always say, I'm the mouth, he's the muscle.
That's hilarious.
Hey, I'm here for that. I'm here for that. But you know, sometimes when you want to speak, you might want to also listen. So when you listen, you can, you know, head over to Anchor and check out some of the beautiful podcasts that are available, like the RePsychled podcast. So we'll be right back after this break.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, girl. What you been up to?
Nothing much, just working. Trying some new things. You know I like to make them coins, honey.
Okay, ma'am. What are these new things?
Well, I am thinking about starting a podcast.
Seriously?
Yes.
Ooh. You know we have one, right?
I thought y'all did. Okay. So good. I'm talking to the right people. I've been doing some research and I've been trying to figure out a hosting site.
Okay. You can use the one we use. We use Anchor.
Hold on, though. Hold on. You know, y'all balling.
Here she goes.
Y'all balling, so y'all can afford to do that. Is it free?
Yeah, girl, it's free. You know we're not out here trying to spend all that money. We keep our coins in the bank. Plus, it has a lot of great tools that help you to sound very professional.
Come on through, professional. Okay. So it got good tools and it's free. So where can I put it?
So you can find it pretty much everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. I mean, pretty much anywhere that you listen to podcasts.
Yeah. Okay. Because y'all know I'm an Apple girl.
Yes. Whatever. We do. But get this.
Okay.
You can also make some money with it too. And you don't even have to have a whole bunch of listeners either.
Wait a minute. Seriously?
Yeah, sponsorships.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So basically this thing is just like a big old one-stop shop.
Okay. So then I really just need to go ahead and download this free Anchor app.
Yeah, or you can just go to anchor.fm if you want to do it on your little laptop and you can just immediately get started.
Okay. Well, you know what? I knew I came to the right room. I knew it. Boss ladies.
We got your back.
You lady.
You welcome. So anyway, what you got going on this weekend?
Girl, I'm shopping. I be liking to make coins, but I like to spend them too.
Yes.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I'm just going to take a nap.
That sounds like you.
Well, I do be sleepy. Y'all don't like bed? Welcome back, beautiful interns. So we lightly touched on this earlier, but we wanted to do a little bit of a deeper dive into dealing with the molder who is actually not qualified to be molding anybody. So, ladies, what are your thoughts on that individual?
Mm-hmm. So when we say unqualified, this is one of the things is a person who is insecure. A person that's insecure can't mold. Well, I don't want to say can't because they try. Shouldn't be molding anyone into anything because only thing you're molding them into doing is being insecure like you.
Absolutely. This makes me think about I don't know if you call it CEU event. I don't know what that was, but Dr.
Oh yeah.
So we went to this event for one of our old professors. He's starting a certificate program in a school. and it's based in attachment science. And one of the things that they talk about is insecure attachments and how, you know, having these insecure attachments, you don't have the capacity to interact and be in the world in a way that is safe, open, understanding. You know, there's like a veil there between you and just kind of like living a healthy life of sorts,
of security,
and having secure attachments. So it puts me in that headspace that, you know, a person with an insecure attachment to, now we can get real Psych 101 on this if we want to, but you know,
don't dive.
So Psych 101 lesson, I'm not going to go way deep into this, but there's a school of thought that, you know, our parents, of course, are our first attachments, and you can develop one of 4 attachment styles. Secure attachment, and then there's 3 types of insecure. You have anxious,
dismissive.
Anxious, anxious, and then avoidant, resistant, and the third one.
Is it It's not dismissive.
I want to think it's just disorganized.
Oh, I knew it was a D. I couldn't remember.
Dismissive is adult attachment.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So then, you know, if you have one of those insecure attachment styles, based off the description of each of those, you're not going to be able to relate to people and connect and develop relationships that are, you know, based in anything healthy. So then you carry that over into your adulthood, and then that branches off into a couple of different extra styles of adult attachment. So when you are insecurely attached to people, you are already operating from a negative, you know, if we're talking numerically, you're operating from a negative space. So it takes that much more energy for you to, one, get up to baseline neutral. And then on top of that, learn healthier ways of understanding, communicating, listening, you know, because we've talked about communication before. There's 2 ends of that. You have the speaking piece and the listening piece. You know, so it takes a lot for you to be able to transition that over into a secure attachment, because you just don't have the knowledge base to come from.
I agree with that.
So when you're molding people from that headspace and insecure attachment, like Dr. Jones-Hines said, you are just creating a little minion.
And this, just for you all who didn't know, this was mine and Dr. Strickland's dissertation.
And a good book to read just to kind of understand where you're at in that process is a book called Attached, and it is by Amir Levine and Rachel S.F. Heller, I believe. And it's a book that I normally recommend for my clients. Now, you ain't got to deep dive into no love or anything like that, but it gives you some good insight into how these relationships are formed and how you typically attach yourself. So for me, I'm going to have a secure attachment and sometimes an anxious attachment. And that makes me go after people that can be secure or people who are avoidant. You normally attract kind of the opposite, because like a disorganized tears my spirit up, so I can't I can't do them. But that's what you typically do. The goal is always to work towards secure, and you're not always going to be secure. That's just, nobody's perfect. So you're going to have a little bit, sometimes you have a little bit of all of them, but you lean closer to one or the other.
So
it's kind of like the love languages.
It depends on where you start. If you if your foundation is secure, what will make it toggle is your life experiences. So your life experiences can make it insecure, and then your foundation is secure. So you have what you need on the inside of you to help you to get back to the security.
Yeah,
absolutely. I wonder if we should interns, let us know if y'all would like a session on attachment theory, attachment science, to kind of better understand like how attachments are formed in childhood, and then how that progresses into adulthood, and then what branches off into the different types of adult attachment. Because, you know, if you really look at them, it can explain a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we, the thing about it is, I think Dr. Strickland and myself have gotten kind of far removed from our dissertation, but then when we went to this training, it kind of brought it all back. It was like, oh man.
And it's a huge part of everything you learn as a psych major, attachment is a very huge part of that, because it goes with development. Attachment and development go hand in hand. So we do spend a lot of time on that, regardless of what theory you're studying.
Yeah.
And this would be for, especially for our interns that wanted a little bit more theory based stuff. You know, it's practical and applicable, but you still get that knowledgeable piece that kind of comes along with it. So y'all let us know, help the algorithm. You know, put it in the comments on one of the posts, and you know, just let us know if that's something that you might be interested in.
So what else has kind of come up in y'all's head when y'all think about the molder?
Okay, we said insecure.
I think and I don't know if this is umbrellaed up underneath insecure, but I think of a fearful person, you know, that is the molder, especially if they're molding or trying to shape a person in an unhealthy way, that there's a level of fear and isolation or fears of abandonment that kind of be couched up underneath that person. Because what would be my purpose in trying to change you? Or, you know, if I'm really trying to change you in some unhealthy kind of way, like what would be my purpose? You know, I don't want to be alone. You know, I don't think that I'm lovable. You know, that whole internal personal narrative of not being worthy, you know, can lead people to do things from a fear-based perspective.
And even the other side of that, being a control freak, because that allows you to stay in your neat box, and you can't have anybody disrupting that. So you make everybody be what you want them to be.
And then to umbrella that with narcissism. Because I know that we would have
you could do a whole series on just narcissism,
which we probably need to,
because we touched on it when we did the manipulation one, but it goes so much deeper than that,
way deeper.
So when you have it's so weird, because not weird, but I guess weird, because even when narcissists try to mold their person, significant other, even when they terminate the relationship, they're still trying to mold them because you're forever theirs.
You ain't never lied. I just be trying to do a podcast. I'm sorry.
Okay, just trying to live life.
Yes,
but agreed.
So what else?
The molder.
So I would say did we talk about the healthy side? Have we talked about that yet? Okay, so I would say the healthy side, if you can say, I think both people are elaborating on what they want, you know, and what they need. And both people are trying to decide if this is something that I can do. Yeah.
And so, you can always leave the deal at any point.
Yeah. And you don't, you're not manipulated or controlled or fear leaving the situation, because it's like, no, this is not working. And yeah, it's kind of like it's I guess a healthy termination to the relationship, and y'all can still be friends.
Potentially. Absolutely. I think if you are on the healthier end of trying to mold a person, it's not necessarily that you're trying to mold the person, you know, because you know my whole thought is there's three pieces in a relationship. There's you, and then the relationship. So if you're coming from a healthy standpoint, it's not that I'm trying to mold you. We're trying to mold the relationship.
I can agree with that.
And it gives you better perspective when it's a little bit further out from the people. And then you can determine what actually works. Prime example, I have a couple that has a very serious issue with the way that they communicate with each other. It's a very roundabout way. Y'all know this couple. But one of the things that they're having an issue with is something of a sexual nature, and they have very polar opposite ideals about what this should look like. But what I tell them is, if you're not willing to come to the table and negotiate somewhere closer to the middle, then why are y'all insisting that y'all have to stay married?
You know, I think people get lost in, well, we're married. But if the marriage is not working, like you're just going to be married and miserable for the rest of your life.
And sometimes you picked wrong.
Yes.
Your
picker's broken.
I think people think just because we with somebody, like that was a wise choice. No, sometimes we do things that are unwise, and we need to really get out of it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. You have to think about the time of your life when you ended up in this relationship. You know, if you are, and this is no bearing specifically on very young people, but if you were 19 when you got married and now you and this individual are 35, who you guys were at 19, if you did not grow together and make the changes as you became full-fledged, realized adults, then you may, it's like, oh, well, you're not quite who I would like to be with anymore, because as a teenager, what I wanted and what was important is vastly different than what I want and what is important to me as a 35-year-old, person.
And if you did make changes, one of the things we always say, how did those changes affect you, your partner, and the relationship? And a lot of times, because people are not really thinking that way, people just change and don't talk about the change. And so it starts affecting the relationship. And then you come to therapy and we tell you this, like, oh, well, maybe I do need to pay attention to the changes, because people typically don't even pay attention to the fact that they changed.
Yeah. I was going to say, on the sex side, because that's a very physical thing where you witness. I have a couple recently, and he came in and he was like, well, I've always done it this way and she's never had a problem with it before. I said, so you've been penetrating her vagina the same way since y'all was 19? Y'all 45.
Oh,
you don't think she want a little something different? You don't think you want a little something different? Like, why do you not want to evolve? Are you lazy? Is it an ego thing and you feel ashamed that you're not able to please her? Like, tell me where this is coming from, where your significant other giving you directives is now a problem. So you want to hurt me.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Not like that,
And this kind of just this, thread of the conversation made me think about neutral molding or neutral changes. We've kind of talked about healthy changes, and then we've talked about kind of the unhealthy version of that. But, I'm thinking of that middle of the road where it's not necessarily that I have done something specific to try to change you, but just from the nature of living.
Yeah.
I have no ill will, no intent, and we're just going through the motions. We're not arguing. We have a very bland kind of relationship set up. And how does that change you? Like
makes you complacent. Life passes you by without you being a participant of it, and it's a very safe.
And it doesn't allow you to seek out any more excitement in your relationship.
And it's also very controlling. It's like, this is my regimen and I'm not deferring from it. Like, it's always this, and we kind of live in our bubble. And I imagine that could be a little bit of fear-based, or it could be a little bit of obliviousness.
Yeah, because I think once couples get to a certain point in their marriage or, whatnot, it becomes more difficult because people think that somebody's ego is going to be bruised or pride is going to be bruised. But I think if you stay true to yourself and the relationship and your partner, then I think that is what you have to stay focused on, so that you can make sure, like, okay, we haven't been out on a date in 6 months. Like, something need to happen. We need to do something.
Yeah, I don't think unless people have been in like really long relationships, really understand how easy it is for monotony to set in and just day to day, and you just get into the humdrum of life. Yeah, you go to work, you come home, you cook, you pay bills. If you have children, you do whatever it is people do with children. Like, you just get into the routine of, okay, on the weekends we do laundry, and then we cut the grass, and then we go grocery shopping on Sunday, and then we do you just kind of get into this slump.
There's no intentionality in it.
Right. And that's why I'm thinking like the neutral molding. You know, it's not that either one of us have actively tried to make a change in the other person, but our lack of has caused the change in one another.
Yeah.
Yeah, that complacency is real.
I ain't got time. Because, I mean, that breeds depression. It breeds resentment. Like we talked about in the previous session, you know, waking up one day, now you divorcing, or you done got a sports car. Like that's not an active way to be present in your own life. Not saying you got to have a meeting every week about something, but if you are that type of couple, then that may be what you need to do.
I think it also breeds infidelity.
True.
It can.
That's how them emotional affairs shows start.
Because you're looking for some excitement.
And I think that's the more common affair type.
Oh, yeah.
People don't realize it.
I'm sure we could look up some stats on that if we really wanted to. But, you know, the sexual affair is, you know, that's a human need. That's just kind of trying to fulfill that piece. But the emotional affair, that's a little bit deeper, you know, because it's talking about connection and there's a void there that's being filled by this other person.
Yeah.
You know, so if I had to say, you know, that whole work husband, work wife idea, I mean, what y'all think that really is?
Yeah.
Right. I remember in high school, I had a work boyfriend, and it was only because another girl at the job liked him that he wasn't interested in. So he made me his work girl.
Trying to protect himself.
Yeah. And he had a girlfriend. I had a boyfriend. So, yeah, it was funny. We would go on breaks together. You going on your break yet? No, I ain't going by myself.
You know, and we are not necessarily talking about infidelity on this particular session, but we have another one where you have the Platonic Affair.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you can have all types of ways that you invest energy in a whole nother person. And if you and your spouse have kind of gotten into that humdrum and monotonous type of relationship, and like, you know, both the doctors here have said, that can lead to that implanting the idea that I want something more and that what I have is no longer good enough.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I would say for a couple that's in this type of situation is for you and your significant other to sit down and kind of come up with some things that y'all always wanted to try, whether it was travel, whether it was going to a football game or basketball game, something like that, and just kind of figure out what your likes and dislikes are now, because regardless of whether or not you like it or not, you tried it, you did something together, and now you can begin to know who you are again.
Yeah. And if, you know, you need something further than that, you can always check out Balance Beacon, because they do offer couples counseling, and you may listen to their lovely ad as we head into another break.
It's so much going on in the world right now, and we could all use some extra support. At Balance Beacon, we offer counseling services for individuals, couples, families, and groups. If you're in Texas, give us a call at 214-396-6503 or visit our website at www.balancebeacon.com for more information.
Ladies, are you looking for a new way to get your body right and your body tight? Well, let me give you the scoop on She. She Dance Studios is a women's only sensual fitness program geared towards unleashing that inner goddess. We're currently offering classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. inside Active Family Wellness, located at 4120 North Collins Street, Suite 200, Arlington, Texas 76005. For more information, DM us on Instagram or Facebook at She Dance Studios.
Okay, so I was thinking about what you were just saying, Dr. Jones-Hines, and the other thing that I was kind of adding on in my head about that was we talked about fear. And I think another thing that kind of infiltrates couples is fear of communication, like fear of being embarrassed, that I'm going to hurt my partner, that they're not going to understand me, you know,
saying the wrong thing.
So I think addressing the fear of what type of conversation do we need to have? And does that conversation include us making changes so that we can better the relationship? Or does that conversation include us making the decision that this is no longer viable for the two of us based off the people that we are today or the people that we've become over the course of our relationship, and we need to go our separate ways?
Yeah.
And just understand that when you have these types of conversations, what will happen is people get afraid, like you were saying, Dr. Strickland, to have the conversation because it's a difficult conversation. We could probably have a session on difficult conversations too and how to have them. But but anytime you know you're going to have a discussion with someone who loves you, if you're telling them something that's either bothering you, offending you, has made you uncomfortable, it's going to hurt their feelings. So don't try to think, oh, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Well, the thing about it is, it's going to hurt.
You in their business. Don't do that.
Right. Allow them to be free to have the feelings.
Yeah. What I often tell my clients when it comes to fear or another emotion that people typically try to get away from is don't allow any of your emotions to become a paralytic, paralyze you. You need to allow that to fuel your decision. You know, it goes with your logic, your reasoning, your thinking. All a emotion is an indication that something is happening, either inside your body, outside your body, or whatever. And so when you know how to utilize your emotions in the correct way, it's just going to be like, okay, I'm experiencing fear. What is the fear related to? And how do I use that to get to the next step?
Agreed.
Yeah. And be mindful of the type of conversation you're getting ready to have as well. So if you're getting ready to have a difficult conversation, it might not be wise for you to go just target, wag your finger.
Yeah.
That's not the way.
Yeah.
Get your words together, get your feelings together, manage your feelings. I'm not going to say get them under control, but manage your feelings so that your feelings won't talk for you.
You want to balance the intellect and the emotion so that you can come from a place of logic.
Yes. Yes. And then be mindful of the other person, because regardless, if it's a difficult conversation, the person's feelings may be hurt anyway.
And that's okay. Like, I don't know why or how we became such a sensitive society, but so closed off. Like, it don't really make any sense.
It doesn't.
Yeah. And because when you have those difficult conversations, it's not really meant for either person to walk away angry. Yeah, stomping their feet.
It's like, I think people don't really have a correct concept of like hard conversations, or like if I come and say X, Y, and Z to you, okay, it's okay for me to be mad. Like I've used this example before when Dr. Jones-Hines and I first met each other. We didn't like instantaneously click, you know. Dr. Strickland was like our in-between person because she understood how we both were. So I remember there was one time Dr. Jones-Hines called me right before I had a class that I was getting ready to teach, and she's like, hey, do we have a problem? Da-da-da-da-da. And I was like, nah, what you talking about? And the thing was I offended? Yeah, but not offended like,
I don't want to talk to her no more.
No, it's just like,
we had to talk it out.
Yeah.
We gave each other our boundaries, and we asked each other to hold each other accountable if we did that. And we was like, good.
I was like, girl, I don't care like that. I was like, but what are you talking? It's early. You know, I'm not no morning person. I gotta go teach this class. Like, I remember like vividly because I was walking around, my eyes barely open, trying to find me some oatmeal to eat because I be done passed out in my own class. So I remember that in that scenario, it's like, was I uncomfortable? Yeah, because I'm uncomfortable because I don't like disappointing people. Like Dr. Jones-Hines and Dr. Strickland know that about me. Like I am, even though I have my people pleaser under control, it is still a part of me. So I want people to feel like I'm pulling my weight and that I'm showing up for them. So when somebody comes and tells me something, I have to like hold myself spiritually, internally, my energy, and be like, okay, don't overcompensate. Just listen to what they saying and be like, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you got anything? Do you want to say something? Like, that's how you work through that. Yeah. And don't be afraid to be uncomfortable. Don't be afraid to be awkward. These are people that you love.
Right. And it was uncomfortable for me to call her just not because I will confront anybody. It don't matter. But I still know her personality and I know my personality. I know I can come off very firm and very strong and it can be seen as condescending or belittling or dismissive or something like that.
It's before she softened.
Before I softened. Yes. Thank you for that. I like that check. And I know, but at that time it wasn't as unmanaged. And so I know I needed to be mindful of how I said something so that I didn't hurt her feelings and it didn't turn into this big argument.
We prayed and everything. It was fine. Yep. But those are the type of things that we talk about. Like you have to be willing to be vulnerable with each other. Like if you really are choosing this person to do life with, like I don't understand why people say, I'm gonna do life with you, but I'm not gonna really be present. Like that doesn't really make any sense. Like if I'm angry, I need to definitely be able to get my emotions together and understand where they're coming from, but then I need to be able to properly express that anger. Like you don't only share like, oh my gosh, I got this accolade, but then I want to knock your head off. Like you have to express both of those, but in a healthy way.
Yeah. And if you're in a relationship that you can't express both, you might want to rethink that relationship. You should be able to talk about any emotion you have with your friend, your partner. And you should be able to talk about any of that. And they should be able to talk about it with you. Because that's what makes a healthy relationship. If every time, if I got upset and couldn't vent to Dr. Strickland, she don't need to be my best friend.
That's true.
And it don't even have to be about her. It can just be about the fact that I need to vent.
Yeah. I remember I had a conversation with a girl that we were trying to be friends. She's obviously not like a close person to me, but I remember telling her, I said, you are really irritating me right now. Like you are really getting on my nerves with the way that you talking to me. Her response was, how can you say that to me? I said, okay, we ain't gonna be able to go any further because I can't express myself. It already take a lot for me to want to say stuff like that because I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna hurt her feelings. You know, the little empath in me is like, oh, I don't want to feel it. So I was like, okay, so she only wants the niceties. And I don't want
fair weather friend.
I don't want that in my life. I want real, true, I ain't gonna say true blue because that means something else. I want real true friendships that are gonna really be there. And you know, I've told y'all this in private, you know, with me having gone through cancer, like you really figure out who's really in your corner, because that's a very lonely experience, even when you have people around you, because nobody is going through that with you in that moment. They've seen me break down, have a whole episode after surgery, and I was like, you need to go home.
Why did you even come
to work? I know.
Because y'all needed me.
No, we need you to be healthy.
But you get what I'm saying.
Like needed you to go get better.
Yes. So it's like you really have to have people in your corner in order to have these type of conversations and progress the relationships forward. If you don't have that, it's kind of like, why did you select this person?
So one of the things you just said when you told the young lady that she was irritating you, let's talk about how a healthy, or how it can sound healthy when someone, you know, responds to you when you tell them that.
So when we were having our conversation, we were having an argument. Now, mind you, the argument was not about us. It was secondhand argument, which is even weirder. And so I was like, I'm extremely irritated right now, and I think I said I need a moment or something like that because I don't want to go off on you. And so she took that offensively. But what she could have communicated was, I don't understand why you would want to go off on me based off of what we're talking about. Or she could have said, you know, why? Are you why, what am I doing?
What have I said?
You know, so that there can be some clarity, because it could have just been me.
A misunderstanding.
But
or
because
I misheard something.
Exactly. But because there's no dialogue, it's a monologue. There's no dialogue going on. We can't get past that.
Yeah.
And so we literally stared at each other for two minutes. And then she changed the subject. I said, okay.
Oh,
That's
Weird.
yeah.
It's weird. And I said, I can't psychologize, as people say. That's not a word. I can't
I
psychologize.
can't shrink you.
No. No. I'm not going to do that. Y'all not paying me. And it's unethical.
Yeah. So y'all hear the healthy type of response that could have made the conversation go different or go in a healthy direction. So that's what we mean by, when you have a difficult conversation, it doesn't mean that somebody has to walk away angry, but get an understanding so that you can both begin to understand each other and it be healthy.
And you also don't have to skip through the tulips. It don't have to be ease on down the road either.
Y'all know I can't stand that.
We can be upset at each other and still love each other. I can look at you like, I can't stand you
Today.
but I love you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Here go that asterisk.
Like people have
Yes.
these really weird thought processes about like what relationships are supposed to be. Like, we're not ever gonna argue. Okay, you're weird then.
Right.
Even if it's
Yeah.
not a high level, high energy argument, y'all are still gonna disagree on things.
Yes.
Oh,
And you
absolutely.
will get upset with each other. And that's okay too. That doesn't have to end the relationship.
Exactly.
If you have a true relationship. Now, if you don't have a true relationship, then hey, it might. But that you might need to let it go anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything you ladies said. Well, I think that's it, folks. So y'all know we always end off with a quote.
We do. And today's quote is coming from Ernest Hemingway, and it reads, "People always think that the most painful thing in life is losing the one you value. The truth is, the most painful thing is losing yourself in the process of valuing someone too much and forgetting that you are special too."
Must be this volume control.
So, okay, interns, process your notes. Be sure to catch us next session and find us on all major platforms at the RePsychled Podcast.
If you're a new intern, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share.
Thanks for listening. And remember, we are shifting and reshaping our psyche through healing conversations and connections, one discussion at a time.